visit our YouTube channel. My name is Mrs. Omas, and I'll be taking you on a subject, and the name of the subject is agricultural science. Agricultural science. I know that sounds very familiar. I know for those people that like food, yeah, and those people that like to visit the farm. Okay, and our subject is pests of farm crops. Pests of farm crops. Wow, what's coming to your mind? Weevil inside the beans, and birds. Okay, I know. All right, let's continue. We're going to be dealing with this topic, and join me in this ride. Promise to be very, very interesting. Now, what are pests? What are pests? I know somebody is saying, Mr. Omas, pest is weevil. Yeah, pests are birds. Yeah, I agree, but that's the definition. Now, pest is any organism that has the ability to damage crops. It has the ability to damage crops. They cause damage, they destroy, and they kill crops. Remember, we are talking about crops now. Yeah, pest is any organism, whether big or small, that has the ability to damage crops. Yes, and that's what, when I was talking about that weevil, that's what the weevil does to our beans. Then they can finish the beans and turn it to powder. That's a pest. Okay, now what about our birds in the farm? They can, eat up. Imagine if you have a farm that you planted corn, then the birds visit that farm, you know what they can do to you, and your harvest will not be too nice. Okay, now we have types of pests. Types of pests. But before we go to the types of pests, let's take down the definition of pest. Yeah, like I said before, we'll take the definition of pest, and it's already on the board. Now, we said that a pest is any organism, whether insect or animal, that feed on, cause damage, and kill crops. That is a pest. It will feed on the crop, it will cause damage to the crop, and at the end of the day, is capable of killing the crop. So you can see that pests, they are not friends of farmers at all. They are farmers' enemies, and no farmer wants them in their farm. Okay, now let's take a look at types of pests, common types of pests. I know you still mention that one because that's the one you see all the time. Okay, have I told you before there's actually proteins? Yes, for those of you that have eaten it. Yes. All right. Now, common examples of pests. Remember, we are talking about the types of pests, so we want to mention them. We have the termites. Yeah, I'm sure you know that one. Termites. We have grasshoppers. Do you know anyone? Can you tell me anyone? We have locusts. Man, that's a very, very bad pest in our farm. Okay, we have fleas. We have bed bugs. We have yam beetles. Yeah, some of you must have seen those ones. We have monkeys. We have the rodents. I hope you know what I mean by rodents. Rodents are rats. Yeah, they are storage pests. We call them storage pests. Okay, we'll come to that later. We have birds. Yes, those ones, they like infesting our farm, especially when we plant our corns. So we have goats, sheep, and we have the caterpillar. Yes, we'll not forget that. That one deals with our fruits very well. We bore holes and enter inside and deal with it very well. Okay, now let's take that down. Types of common pests. Okay, as you can see from what we have on the board, we've been able to list the types of common crop pests that we have around us. All right, number one, there are termites. Termites. Number 2, grasshoppers. Number 3, locusts. 4, fleas. 5, yam beetles. 6, we have the monkeys. 7, crickets. 8, rodents. Like an example of a rodent is a rat. But we have different types of rodent, but that's the one that is common. I know you will know that one. Number 9, weevils. Yeah, I know you know that one too. 10, birds. 11, goats and sheep. Number 12, we have caterpillar. Okay, now, as you can see from what we've listed here and what you've read, you'll discover something, that we have a mixture of insects and non-insect crop pests. So that will take us to the classification of crop pests. We want to group them into groups of insect and non-insect crop pests. All right, let's take that down. Okay, we're talking about the classification of pests. Now we have two major classification of pests. We have the insect pest, and this one comes amongst the categories that's the largest of the categories of pests. And we have the non-insect pest, and this one they are majorly vertebrates. I hope you know what a vertebrate is. A vertebrate is an animal that has what? Backbone. Yeah, I know you know that one. Now let's talk about insect pests. Okay, don't forget that I told you that the insect pests are the largest in number, and they attack and destroy crops at different stages of their development. Okay, now insect pests can be grouped into two subcategories, all right? They can be grouped into two subcategories. Okay, one of the categories is their mode of feeding, the way they feed. They have different types. Okay, they all have their different types of how they feed. Okay, we have category according to their location. There are some that attack pests in the field, as on the farm, and there are some that attack crops in the storage. All right, so let's take that down. Okay, remember I told you that insect pests can be classified into two main groups. They have listed the two main groups on the board, and they are namely their mode of feeding. Their mode of feeding, how they feed. Number two is their location. Their location. Now let's talk about mode of feeding. Now under that mode of feeding, we have the ones that are biting and chewing insect pests. Biting and chewing insect pests. Insects like grasshopper, we have insects like termite, the cockroach, the caterpillar, locust. All those ones, they belong to the group of the biting and chewing insect pests. Another category is the piercing and sucking insect pest. All right, are you taking that down? Piercing and sucking insect pest. Okay, under mode of feeding, we are still on mode of feeding. Number one, I said biting and chewing, and I told you that insects that come under this category, we have the grasshopper, the termite, the cockroach, caterpillar, we have the locust there, we have the cricket, and the beetle is also in that category. Now we move to number two. Under that category, we have the piercing and sucking insect pest. Now, insects that you see under this category, we have the mealybug, the butterfly, the cotton stainers, and the white fly. There are still other insects under this category. Now, number three category, under the mode of feeding, we have boring and chewing insect pest. Boring and chewing insect pest. Now, here comes our friend, you know, that's weevil. Yes, that one that knows how to build house inside the bins. 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom apartment. The one that knows how to create a road inside the bins. That's our friend. Now comes under this very good category. We have the weevil, the bean beetles, and now this boring and chewing insect pests, they like to feed on dry grains, and they know how to reduce it to dust. I can bet you that they know how to do it very well. In fact, they are experts. So whenever you want to grind anything like powder, just give it to them. They will solve your problem for you. All right. Yeah, remember we talked about mode of feeding of insects, and I've listed them on the board, the different categories of the mode of feeding, and I've also given examples of such types of insects according to their mode of feeding. Now, number one, we have the biting and chewing insects. Examples of insects that we have in these categories are, we have the grasshoppers, we have locusts. Yeah, there are so many of them. We have number two, piercing and sucking insects. Examples are butterflies, mealybug. We have so many of them too. Number three, we have boring and chewing insects. Here we have our weevils and our beetles. Now, let's go to the next classification, which is talking about their location. Here we're going to be talking about location according to field location and according to storage location. The insects that attack these crops according to field and storage. Let's take that down. Remember we talked about the classification of insect pests based on their location. Now we've listed that on the board. We have two categories coming under this classification. We have the field pests. These ones, they attack crops on the field. Examples, we have the grasshopper, the locust, the caterpillar. We have crickets, that's not on the board. We have termites, and we have what is called aphids, and there are so many of them. Now, number two, we have storage pests. Storage pests. Now, these ones, they attack crops in the store. they attack our crops in the store, not in the farm. Now, example is the bean beetle, we have the rice and the maize weevil. Now, having said that, we are going to our number 2 main category, talking about the non-insect pests. Non-insect pests, and these ones we are talking about the vertebrates. Remember, I told you that vertebrates are animals that have what? Backbones. Yeah, I am a vertebrate, you are a vertebrate. Yes, let's talk about that one. Non-insect pests. Now, these are bigger pests. They're not small like the insects. Even though in terms of grouping they are small, the insect pests are the largest of all the categories of pests that the farmer suffers in the farm. Now, talking about non-insect pests, which are the vertebrates, don't forget that they are big pests, all right, and they have backbone, and they either can be mammals or they can be birds. They can be mammals, they can also be birds. All right, let's take that down. Remember, we're talking about examples of non-insect pests, and I told you that these ones, they are vertebrates, they are animals with backbones. All right, examples are number 1, we have the birds there. They have different species of birds. Yes, these ones, they attack our farm, especially a farm where you've planted your greens. They are very, very good at destroying it. All right, number 2, we have rodents. Example of rodents are rats and grass cutter. We also have squirrel coming under that example too. Number 3, we have monkeys. These ones, they like to be in our banana plantations. Okay, now we have goats and sheep. Okay, lizards. Number 6, bats, and number 7, wild pigs. Okay, now we're moving on to effect of pests on crops. Now, what do they really do to crops, and why do they make farmers frown, or why do they make farmers cry, and why and how do they cause a kind of loss of a crop that will make the farmer think and say that, okay, this year my harvest wasn't really good, I lost a lot. Now let's take down what they do to our crops. So I'm going to prove to you that pests are really, really dangerous, and they cause a lot of damage to our crops in the farm, and also crop loss, which will lead to non-profit for our farmers. Let's take that down. Okay, remember we're talking about the effects of pests on crops, and we've listed some on the board. Number 1, we said that they reduce the yield of crops. They reduce the yield of crops. And when you're expecting a very good harvest and you have pests in your farm, it's not going to make you have that very good harvest that you've been expecting. So it's going to reduce the yield of your crops. The yield will now be small. They destroy crops in the field. They destroy crops in the field. Number 3 is the profit of farmers are reduced. Profit of farmers are reduced. Well, of course, if they destroy crops, then you know that your profit is going down. Okay, number 4 is that they increase the cost of production during the course of controlling them. Now, take for instance that you have a farm, you understand, and pest now comes to your farm. Pest now comes to your farm, and you have to spend money to control that pest. Definitely, whatever you harvest from that farm is going to make you increase the cost. It's going to make you, if you want to sell, it's going to make you increase because you want to make profit. Okay, now number 5 is some are carriers of vectors of diseases. Yeah, some of these pests, they are actually carriers, and they transfer that disease to your crop plant. Number 6, they render crops unattractive and unmarketable. Yeah, imagine you going to the market now and you want to buy fruits that have been infested with caterpillars and all whatnot. You won't like to buy that. Okay, that's what a pest will do to your crop plant. Okay, now they can also cause the total death of crop plants. There are many, many more effects of crop plants. There are very, very many, but these are the ones we are going to be listing today. Now, I haven't talked about pests, different types of pests, how they feed, their location, and all that, their effect. Now, the next thing that will come to a farmer's mind is, how do we control this pest? How do we control this pest? We don't want them. They are enemies. They make us frown. They make us cry. They lead to profit loss. They lead to crop loss and so many other negative things in our farm. Now, how do we control them? That's the next stage we're going to now. We're going to take that down. Now, talking about the methods of controlling pests, there's something that we need to look at. Agric is a science subject, and we have to go through some principles before we take any action on whatever we do. Now, talking about method of controlling pests, number one thing we have to consider is that we have to observe. We have to observe, and this will help us to know the pest and the damage caused. The pest and the type. Remember, I told you that we have to observe. We have to observe to know the pest and the damage caused. Yes, you have to know the type of pest and the damage. Alright, whether it's a biting and chewing insect or whether it's a non-insect pest. So you have to observe to know the pest and the damage caused. Number two thing that you have to do is that you have to understand. You have to understand the effect of the pest damage on the crops. You have to understand that. Number three, you have to decide. Now you're a farmer. It's left for you to decide if you want the pest to remain in the farm or if you want to get rid of it. Now you have to decide on the best action to take to reduce the pest damage. Now the last thing you have to do is not just deciding, you have to take action. After deciding, you have to take action. You have to use the action chosen to reduce the pest damage. You have to use the action chosen to reduce the pest damage. Now let's go to the different methods of controlling pests. Remember, we're talking about the methods of controlling pests. Methods of controlling pests. And the number one method that we have here is the cultural method. Now under this cultural method, we have practices like good farming sanitation. We have weeding. We have crop rotation. We have timely harvesting of crops. We have good tillage practices. We have proper storage of farm produce, and we also have correct spacing of plants. So all this come under the cultural methods of controlling pests. Another method is the physical method of controlling pests. Now under this, we have a hand picking of pests. There are actually some of them that we can pick with our hands from our crops. Okay, we have setting traps to catch them. There are traps that we can set. Talking about pests like the squirrel, the grass cutter, and the rats. We have traps that we can set for them to catch them. We have shooting with gun. Yes, don't try this at home. Shooting with gun. Yeah, except if you're licensed to own a gun and you have a farm, and if you can do it, please go ahead and do it before they destroy your crops. Okay, we have fencing around the farm. Fencing around the farm. This helps a lot in our water leaf garden and our pumpkin garden. It helps a lot. Okay, we have the use of scarecrow. We have the use of scarecrow. Scarecrow is something that we can construct with just 2 pieces of wood, and we'll just get our polythene bag and place it on the 2 pieces of wood. We construct the 2 pieces of wood like a cross and place our polythene bag on the 2 pieces of wood. Now we mount that on our farmland, and when birds sees that, they will think that it's actually a real human being that is standing there. So they will not want to go to that farm to destroy the pest. Number 3, we have the biological method. This is very good. It involves the introduction of natural enemies of pests to control the pest, the natural enemy. Take for instance, I have rats in my storage house where I've stored my grains, where I've stored my yams, the yam ban and all that. And this rat or take for a rabbit is always coming there to destroy my crops. I can introduce a cat. That's a natural enemy. By the time they hear the sound of the cat, they hear meow, something like that, they will run away because they know that it's a natural enemy, that when the cat gets them, it's going to feed on them. So that's a biological method of controlling pests. Number 4, we have the chemical method. This involves the use of chemicals. We call them insecticide. We call them a pesticide to control the pest. Insecticide or pesticides to control the pest. Okay, we are going to run over the lesson just once more so that will give us a better understanding of what we have today. Remember that our topic is pest, and we've talked so much on that. We've talked about the definition of the pest. We say a pest is any organism, be it insect or an animal, that feeds on, causes damage, and it also kills crops and livestock, if you want to extend it to livestock. Okay, now pests cause economic loss to farmers. They are not good, they are enemies. Okay, now we've talked about common pests of crops, some common pests of crops. We talked about the termite, the grasshopper, the locust, the aphids, the stripes, the fleas, the bed bugs, yam beetles, monkeys, crickets. We talked about rodents, rats, squirrels. We talked about weevils, the one in the bin, that one is very common. We talked about birds, different species of bird, goats, sheep, and we also talked about caterpillar. Now we went further to classify crop pests into two categories, okay, into two categories. We talked about the insect pests and the non-insect pests. And the non-insect pests, they are the vertebrates, okay. Now, insect pests, we can go further to classify them into their mode of feeding and into their location. Now, under mode of feeding, we talked about the biting and chewing. That's number one. We talked about piercing and sucking. We also talked about boring and chewing insect pests. Okay, now we can also classify those insect pests according to their location. Okay, talking about the field pest, the one that attacks our crops in the farm, and talking about the storage pest, the one that attacks our crops where we've already stored them. Now we'll move on to non-insect pests. Those are the vertebrates. Okay, examples are the rodents. I told you examples of rodents: rats, grasshopper, squirrel, the birds, the monkeys, the goat, the sheep, rats, bats. Okay, don't forget Mr. Bat. Okay, talked about wild pigs. Now we'll move on to the effect of crop pests, what they really do to crops and how it affects the farmer in terms of crop loss. Okay, we'll talk about number one. We say they reduce the yield of crops. They destroy crops in the field. The profit of farmers are reduced. Okay, now they reduce the quality of produce. They can also cause total death of the crop plant. We went further to talk about methods of controlling pests. Methods of controlling pests. Number one is the cultural method. Cultural method. Yeah, this is what and we can do some of these things under the cultural method. We can go for a good farm sanitation, weeding, crop rotation, timely harvesting of crops, good tillage practices, proper storage of farm produce, and correct spacing of plants. Number two is the physical method. The following can be done under this method: hand picking of pests, setting traps to catch rodents, shooting with gun, fencing around the farm, use of scarecrow. Number three is the biological method. This is when I talked about the introduction of the natural enemy of the pest to wherever you want that enemy to control that pest. Okay, now number four, we have the chemical method. This is the one we use the chemicals like insecticides and pesticides. Okay, now I'm going to give you something to do for me. You're going to do that for me. Write it in your notebooks and you submit back to me in school. Thank you. Okay, we've run through our lesson and I told you that there's something you'll do for me. Now, assignment is on the board and I know that you're going to dissolve it very well. Very, very simple as ABC as usual. I always tell you that. Okay, now, number one is that I want you to outline the effects of pests in crop production. Outline the effects of pests in crop production. Okay, I don't want to give you a number, so you can outline as many as you can. Okay, number two is discuss two methods of controlling pests. I've given you more than two. I want you to pick any two of your choice and discuss. Okay, two methods of controlling pests. Alright, that will be all for now. Thanks for joining me in this ride. Yes, it's been fun, it's been jolly, it's been interesting. And I hope you've learned a lot from this. Okay, talking about pests and how to control them and everything about them. Okay, until I see you again next time. Bye.